How's everybody today? Doing good, I hope. And if not, if you're fighting with life or life's beating you up, I got some popsicles in the freezer. We can go sit on the back porch and talk about it. I promise it'll be okay. I promise. Because I know all about, hey, this sounds like a great idea. Turns out to be a bad idea. This is one of those stories, part of the stories that, like the narrator, the tomato, talks about seem to mimic life or mirror life. And there's some different characters and different setting here, but this is related. I promise. Later in the story, you'll see everything's connected. So here we go. The Owl of Planet Cowtown. This is the tragic story of a circus and three animals in particular, but all thing in due time. Our story begins, of course, at the beginning of business for the circus itself, when the circuit of stops was small and the caravan was light. At that time, the caravan was light enough that only two Clydesdales were needed to pull the full weight of the caravan. Each of these Clydesdales had manes the color one of bright fire and the other as deep red as autumn. In the beginning, the Clydesdales simply worked and pulled the circus caravan. Gradually, the circus owner gained notoriety, and as would stand to reason, the owner added more wagons to accommodate a larger show, and as the burden of the two Clydesdales became very great, the circus owner became increasingly greedy, also created more stops on the circuit of travel. The circus owner had also taken to whipping the Clydesdales as the heavier caravan slowed them considerably. Not only were the Clydesdales now being regularly whipped, the circus owner now withheld their favorite sweet oats, and he fed them only leeks due to the budget, he said. The Clydesdales snorted in defiance. Oh, how they missed their sweet oats. The harsh mistreatment of whipping and leeks and pulling and leeks and whipping with no sweet oats continued for years under the cruel circus owner. However, cruel the circus owner may have been, he did see the Clydesdales biting and kicking at each other. Well, by this point, the circus owner had become so rich that he had bought 6 new bridles and 6 new Clydesdales to pull his obtuse circus caravan. So began the same again, whipping and leeks and pulling and leeks, and whipping and sweet oats now became but a fond memory. Ever consumed by more greed, the circus owner had a very business-minded and wicked thought. He thought to himself, now that I have 6 more Clydesdales, I can whip the whole team 6 times harder and make time to towns further away all the sooner. As if a foul wind had crossed their soft noses, the Clydesdales, with the manes of bright fire and the other of deep red autumn, snorted loudly, and their eyes widened. Just then, all 8 Clydesdales felt the sting first and heard the crack of the whip second, and the team pulling the overloaded caravans were off like a rocket. With his new Clydesdale team, the greed of the circus owner would not soon be sated. He drove his caravan into faraway lanes in search of oddities, skills, and abilities that were most uncommon. The circus owner even pushed his poor Clydesdale team into the distant lands of the nearsighted Far East with the intent of acquiring the fabled red panda for his menagerie. The circus owner was in and out of the country of the nearsighted Far East with such slapdash speed that the Clydesdales had no idea of the occupants of the caravan, and the occupants only knew that some kind of horse was pulling the caravan. The new occupants in question were red young panda siblings, twins in fact, a boy and a girl. Unfortunately, now began more of the same, being whipped and eating leeks and pulling the caravan and eating leeks and being whipped, and no hope of ever tasting sweet oats again for our 2 Clydesdales, Brightfire and Autumn. It is also worth noting that the foolish circus owner had reigned our two Clydesdales in the lead of the newest six. He erroneously thought that the two Clydesdales were the most loyal to him because of time. Our friend the circus owner would, however, learn a stark lesson this day, as would another. At this time, the caravan was stopped, with no appointment yet for 2 days. Our friends, the Clydesdales, with one with the mane of Brightfire and the other one with the mane of Deep Red Autumn, were dutifully eating leeks with the rest of the team as the circus owner went into the wagon with the Red Panda twins, trying to get them to sneeze or prestidigitate or some damn thing. It was, after all, at least the useless creatures could do, besides make noise and roll onto their backs while holding their feet. He had, after all, given a very hefty sum for the young twins. Our two friends, the Clydesdales, were now highly adept at observing their surroundings. As they chewed and swallowed their leeks, they noticed a plain in front of them to the north of the road, and an old-growth forest to the west of the road, with trees that reached halfway to the sky. The Clydesdale, with the deep red autumn mane, spat out the last mouthful of leek onto the dirt path beneath her, and stomped, tamped, and twisted the plant under her hoof as if destroying evidence. She then scanned all the trees on the edge of the old-growth forest, discovered an irregularity, and asked her sister with the Brightfire mane for clarity. "Hey, what is that, halfway up that tree?" Brightfire scanned the tree line while still chewing leeks, and with a mouthful replied, "Oh, yeah." Her sister stomped the ground and snorted. "Well," Brightfire glanced at her sister, Autumn, sideways, and said dryly, "Some stupid owl." Autumn straightened her long neck and squinted into the tree line. "You are dense," said Autumn. "That," Brightfire, "is a great horned owl. Do you know how good of workers and hunters they are?" Brightfire, still chewing, looked at her sister sideways and said, "So, how come you're an owl expert today?" Autumn's ire escalated. "Shut it, and don't say anything dumb." Brightfire rolled her eyes and continued chewing leeks. The Clydesdale, with the mane of Deep Red Autumn, swished her tail, threw her mane over her neck, and called to the great horned owl, "Yoo-hoo!" Autumn batted her eyes for flair. The great horned owl bobbed his head and replied, "Whoo!" Autumn looked at Brightfire with wild eyes, and Brightfire had just snorted chewed leeks out of her soft nose when Autumn finally spoke. "Is this son of a bitch serious?" Autumn tried a more direct approach. "Owl, come here!" The great horned owl again replied, "Whoo!" This was promptly met with 4 front hoofs slamming into the dirt. The great horned owl now saw the importance of speaking to these horses, so he spread and tilted his wings to a perfect dive bomb without disturbing any dust on the road. The great horned owl looked up over twice his own height to look at these majestic Clydesdales before him. The owl winked each eye in turn, clicked his bill to produce a hollow tapping noise, opened his full wingspan, bowed with austerity before saying, "Greetings." "Hi yourself," said Brightfire. "Hello, Owl," said Autumn, as she scratched the dirt with one hoof and flipped her mane again. The great horned owl made half a head rotation from noon to 6 and back again before asking, "So, the circus caravan. Time is a circus, always packing up and moving away." The 2 draft horses looked at each other, totally motionless except for their heartbeats. "Owl," said Autumn, "you seem very wise. So wise that I dare say you could determine the correct number of horses, as is required in moderation, to pull this caravan simply by counting the wagons. What would you say?" The great horned owl made a single emphatic hoot before saying, "I do love a challenge." The owl then bent his legs, spread his wings fully, flapped, and was airborne. During this airborne inspection, much chatter was had between the Clydesdale sisters that the great horned owl promptly ignored. As the owl flew to the end of the circus caravan, he remembered he needed to count the wagons, so on the way back, was as good a time as any. As the owl made a U-turn in the air around the last wagon, his keen ears heard the squeaks and shrieks of a potential snack, so he buzzed the window and saw a human in the wagon with two red panda cubs. I'm sure everything's fine as long as that human's in there to help those red panda cubs, the owl thought. 1, 2, 3, the owl counted as he flew. The owl soon gave up because it was clear this caravan only needed 6 horses and not 8. And as he was passing the bridle rigging, he dive bombed the system right between Brightfire and Autumn and snapped the leather in 3 places, freeing Brightfire and Autumn from the team and each other with his beak. The great horned owl stood in the exact spot on the road before, and again his left and right eyes winked, followed by the clicking of his bill. The great horned owl commenced his report. Upon assessment of this circus caravan for the requested load-to-power ratio, and taking into account variables from one wagon to the next, such as that human, I have deduced that this caravan has exactly 2 extra horses. I have taken the liberty of severing your reins from the team. Is there anything else you both require of me? Brightfire and Autumn slowly turned their heads. And yes, indeed, their new friend made exact work of their reins, as evidenced by the slack leather straps at their sides. They then looked at each other, and yet daring to twitch a muscle because it was known for sure that the wrath of the circus owner would descend in their absence. Thank you, Owl. Yes, thank you. Hey, Owl. The Clydesdales almost copied each other's words. Can you tell us where to find Sweet Oats? The great horned owl let out a triumphant hoot and said, You must mean the vast sweet oat field next to the apple orchard. Where is it? The horse sisters asked in unison. The owl stood up and bared his wingspan fully open to look more auspicious and said, There are 2 routes, around the forest or through. Going through the forest is faster, and the forest is my home, so I can guide you. Brightfire and Autumn turned their long noses down and in, and had a brief conversation too quiet for the owl to hear. Then Brightfire spoke first. I will go around the forest. Then Autumn spoke. I will allow you to accompany me through the forest. Splendid, cooed the great horned owl. Shall we mosey? How fast can you fly, Owl? Asked Autumn. I bet I can outrun your top flight speed. The great horned owl again rotated his whole head noon to 6 and back again before clicking his bill. In full flight, I am twice as fast as you could ever run. However, I accept your wager. What is your stake? Autumn thought to herself, This stupid owl has me in a corner. She quickly snorted and blurted out, Your reward shall be dancing. Intriguing, said the owl. Your reward shall be joy. Too bad I'm going to win. Autumn's eyelids narrowed as she said, Not on your life. The great horned owl cocked his wings at 2 backward angles and readied himself. Brightfire and Autumn each had 1 hair-covered hoof up at a pitch, partly aware of the sorrow that would befall the circus caravan, and also pining for their own new adventure. Brightfire broke the silence. Red light, green light, go! At the very next moment, my dear friends, in the last wagon, please remember the circus owner with the twin red pandas he could not tell apart. Please remember at this point, my friends, it is very important. In the middle of the wagon there were 2 small chairs with 1 panda each upon it. The boy cub was in the right-handed side small chair, and the girl cub was in the left-handed side small chair, which truly was useless knowledge to the cubs not being able to tell their rights from their lefts. The circus owner had been trying to train the cubs to do something, anything, to make a profit from them. He had, after all, given a very hefty sum of money for the young twin red pandas. The cubs both still did nothing but chase each other about, going back to their chairs, holding their feet and rolling on their backs, squeaking. Now the circus owner put the treats in a cupboard with a lock and thought to collect the horsewhip from the lead wagon to finally train these young red panda twins properly. By the beat of his breath, my dear friends, the great horned owl and the two Clydesdales took off like a shot. The remaining 6 Clydesdales whinnied and reared and kicked and caused a great commotion. To the north of the road where the plane met the forest border, Brightfire yelled to Autumn and the owl, "Be safe, have fun!" The owl and Autumn hollered back, "Be safe, have fun!" The 6 Clydesdales, still bridled and reined, all kicked at once and set a wave of motion down the entire caravan that shook the last wagon like a whip itself. Furious, the circus owner ran up the caravan only to witness his 2 most loyal, or so he thought, Clydesdales escaping in full bridle, one around the forest to the north and the other headed into the forest to the west. "These ungrateful beasts," said the circus owner through gritted teeth. Now, absolutely enraged, he grabbed the horsewhip and headed for the last wagon. Upon entering, the circus owner found the inside of the wagon as it was, the boy cub in the right chair, the girl cub in the left-sided chair. Except the cabinet was ajar due to the Clydesdale's kick. The circus owner looked at the cubs as the whip unfurled to the floor and said, "Since your friends do not understand gratitude, you shall learn it doubly for them." The 6 Clydesdales heard this clearly and in unison kicked with all their might, sending another massive shockwave, which this time overturned the last wagon. As the wagon was rotating in the air, so were the occupants inside. The red panda squeaked with great delight through the air. The circus owner was beside himself with rage and grabbed the closest cub's tail, the girl's, who promptly bit his hand so deeply it brought forth blood. Now the wagon came to rest with the circus owner with the whip in one hand and blood all over the other, and the panda cub in front of him on the ceiling, which was now the floor. The cubs stood before him, the girl on the right, the boy on the left, because when they were confused, that's what their chairs had become overturned. Supremely confident in his decision, the circus owner grabbed the panda on the right, threw her violently into the cupboard, locking the door in the same fluid motion. The circus owner was sure the remaining panda was the cub that had bit him. The girl red panda could only now hear from inside the dark cupboard cracks of the whip, loud panting and shrieking, which all seemed to carry on endlessly until it was silent. She tried, cautiously, to smell her environment, only lingering smells of her twin and the circus owner now. Her imagination began to race. She began smelling the cupboard. What fortune! A clay jar, intact with water inside, and the box of treats. Just hang on, she told herself. Be right back.